All right, okay, let's dive in. We've got a really crucial forecast to unpack today. We're looking at Europe, West Russia, and the North Caucasus, specifically for July 12th to the 21st, 2025. Pretty immediate stuff. And our mission, as always, is to give you that shortcut, pulling out the most vital bits from the latest reports so you're properly informed.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating here, I think, is how these specific detailed forecasts aren't just random weather events. They actually fit right into the broader patterns we're seeing with climate change. It highlights this increasing volatility.
Volatility. Okay, so for this 10-day window, what's the big picture, the overall trend?
Well, we're generally looking at warmer than average conditions pretty much everywhere across these regions. And that comes with a really high likelihood of significant heat waves.
Heat waves,
But it's not just heat. It introduces this concept. It's called hydroclimate whiplash.
Hydroclimate whiplash, what's that exactly?
It means these really rapid, sudden shifts. You go from intense heat, maybe drought, straight into severe rain, maybe floods. And you have to remember, Europe is already the fastest warming continent during the summer months. And Russia, well, Russia's warming about 2.5 times the global average. So these effects, they get amplified.
That really puts it into context.
Yeah.
This whiplash idea is quite stark. So when we talk about warmer than average, let's ground that. What kind of actual temperatures are we seeing or expecting?
Oh, it's serious. I mean, recently, feels like temperatures hit 48 degrees Celsius in parts of Portugal.
48.
Yeah. And Moscow just had a 34-degree heat wave. Southern Russia saw temperatures pushing past 40 Celsius. For the North Caucasus specifically, we're looking at forecasts in the range of, say, 85 to 100 Fahrenheit. That's about 29 to 38 Celsius.
Those are some pretty jarring numbers.
Yeah.
What's the human side of this? Beyond just feeling hot, what are the serious health risks?
Well, they are very serious. We're talking heat stress, definitely heat stroke, and these conditions can badly worsen pre-existing health problems. We saw in Europe back in 2022, estimates were around 60, maybe even 70,000 heat-related deaths. It's tragic. And this early season heat, like what we might see now, can be particularly dangerous because people just haven't acclimatized yet.
Right, your body isn't ready for it.
Exactly. And then you add the urban heat island effect. Cities trap heat, making it much worse for people living there.
That's such a critical point. These aren't just uncomfortable days. They can be lethal, especially early on and especially in built-up areas. So that's the heat side. But you mentioned whiplash. The other side is storms, right? Even where it's meant to be drier.
Precisely. We're seeing an increased risk of severe thunderstorms.
Yeah.
Think large hail, flash floods.
Yeah.
And this can happen even in regions that are overall projected to have less rainfall during the period.
How does that work? More heat, but also more intense rain. Seems counterintuitive.
It does, but the mechanism is fairly straightforward. Warmer air holds more moisture. It's about 7% more for every degree Celsius rise in temperature. So when storms do form, they have more fuel, basically. More water vapor to draw on, leading to more intense downpours. We've seen rainfall intensity jump something like 22% in Europe over the last 50 years.
22%, that's significant.
It is. Look at St. Petersburg. They recently had only their second July flood in recorded history. Moscow saw hail about 2.5 centimeters wide.
So does this mean more hailstorms overall?
Not necessarily more frequent, interestingly. Some projections suggest maybe fewer hailstorms overall. But this is the key part. The hail that does fall is likely to be larger, more severe. So individual storms can be much more destructive.
Okay, more intense, less frequent. Got it. Now let's quickly focus on the North Caucasus. You mentioned drought risk there, potentially unprecedented. But you also mentioned this precipitation paradox. Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure, it's a tricky one. Historical data, say from 1961 to 2020, actually shows average rainfall increased in the North Caucasus.
Increased. But now there's drought risk.
Exactly. The paradox is that the rain, when it comes, often falls in these really intense short bursts. So you get rapid runoff, maybe flash floods, but the water doesn't soak into the ground effectively to combat the underlying dryness or recharge groundwater.
So the way it rains matters as much as the total amount.
Precisely. So regions like Chernozny, Krasnodarsky, Stavropol, key agricultural areas, they face this severe summer drought risk despite that historical trend. And the longer-term projection isn't great either. The North Caucasus is expected to become drier, hotter, and less prosperous by 2030.
Okay, so wrapping this up then, what does all this mean for you listening right now? We've got heat risks, storm risks, drought risks. It sounds like major strain across the board.
Absolutely. You're looking at increased strain on public health services, definitely. Big risk to agriculture, obviously. Infrastructure is vulnerable too. Think about things like permafrost melt in parts of Russia accelerating. Water management becomes a huge challenge.
And wildfires too, I imagine. More heat, maybe more dry vegetation.
Yes, amplified pressure on emergency services dealing with potentially more intense and longer-lasting wildfires is another key concern.
So it really demands a dynamic response.
Yeah.
Better preparedness, adaptation.
That's exactly it. We need integrated strategies. Robust adaptation is crucial, not just reacting, but planning ahead.
Right. So our deep dive today really paints a picture of a summer period, this July 12th to 21st, that just demands vigilance from everyone. It's defined by this volatility, isn't it? These rapid swings between extremes, the heat, the sudden intense rain.
Yes, and it's vital to remember these aren't just freak weather events. These patterns are consistent with climate change. They're amplified by human activity, fundamentally.
A summer demanding adaptability, then.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought for you to consider. In this rapidly changing climate, truly understanding how these different hazards connect. Heat, drought, storms, floods, how they interact, and building resilience that can adapt to these shifting threats, that's really paramount now. It's not optional anymore.